Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news this Friday morning, as a story breaks that Manchester United could be willing to let Bruno Fernandes go in January and do want him gone in the summer. There's also more on Mateta, Xerxes coming in as well, and a little bit around Mainoo, that should he stay or should he go, but he wants to stay, but the United want him to go. All that to get into as well. And also, it's bloody cold this morning. It's bloody cold. I'm a little bit late this morning because I've been out to get a little bit of a haircut, which most people will never notice with me because when I get my haircut, it's always the same style. It's just slightly shorter. But we had a bit of snow overnight in the UK, and normally it's a 10-minute drive to my hairdresser's. It took me about 30 minutes because there's not many cars on the road, but the cars that are on the road are driving like Noddy, who's had a bloody stroke. It was, just don't drive in the, if you don't want to drive in the snow, don't drive. And people will go, well, maybe they've got to get somewhere. Well, learn to drive in the snow then. I mean, we're talking slower than bloody Mateta in midfield. Bag of cement drivers, absolute idiots. But I'm home now. I've had my haircut. I've got a lovely cup of tea, and I'm with you lot, which is the main thing. So, I hope you're all doing very well this morning, and we'll get straight into it. Ah, that's lovely. That's lovely. So, lots to get into this morning. I'm going to lead on this Bruno Fernandes story because there is an undercurrent to this that's always been there, and essentially, what we've got is this report coming in from, let me get it for you here. It's just loading it up. So, Football Insider, Transfer News Live, says Manchester United are planning to sell Portugal midfielder Bruno Fernandes and are not ruling out the possibility of a January exit. The Portugal international has a 52.5 million release clause, which can be triggered by clubs outside of the Premier League. So, this is rather interesting because I'm just getting more stuff being sent in for me as well. Lovely cough. Effectively, Bruno Fernandes could have been sold in the summer. And he very nearly did go. He spent a lot of time thinking about it. He felt underappreciated. This is not lies. This is not sensationalist. This is all factual. He nearly left in the summer. United could have got a lot of money. He stayed. Amorim wanted him to stay. The club wanted him to stay. A month ago, an interview came out saying that he nearly went because he felt underappreciated. The club deny that. So there is still this thing going on between Bruno Fernandes and the club, which is not stable. It's just been forgotten about amongst Christmas and bad results. That interview he did just before Christmas basically was as bad in some people's eyes as Mainoo's brother wearing the T-shirt, because he was saying, the club don't appreciate me. Blah, blah, blah. So it's not a stable situation. So when you get this coming out that Bruno is up for sale, and people go, never, the club would never do it. You've got to tell the story. They were thinking about doing it in the summer, and Bruno says he feels underappreciated. So it's not necessarily as sensational as people might be going in the chat going, we'll never do it, because Bruno himself feels underappreciated. The club themselves nearly did it in the summer. So this is a trajectory towards a sale in the summer. What I know is what I know from what we've seen publicly, but what I also know from sources in the club is that Bruno will be gone in the summer. If we're not in Europe, he'll go. He won't stay at Man United. And if we are in Europe, he still might go, dependent on what Man United qualify for and what he feels it's worthwhile. Basically, what I was told is if United qualify for the Champions League, he still might go because he might look at the quality of the league and what United are going to do in the summer, because he's been at the club when we've qualified for the Champions League and then not been in it the following year. So he's not naive enough to be, well, if we qualify for the Champions League, I'll stay, because he's 32. He's 32 this year. So the chances are that unless Bruno Fernandes sees Champions League qualification and a proper vision for the future, he probably won't stay. And what are the chances that in the next 5 months we're going to qualify for the Champions League and show Bruno Fernandes that we've got a vision to compete for the Premier League and the Champions League? It's very, very slim. So I think he'll go in the summer. Somebody said to me about 2 weeks ago, it's more than 50-50 whether he'll go. And I think 50-50 is worrying, but they were saying it's more than 50-50. They wouldn't give me a percentage, but they said it's more than 50-50 slanting towards him leaving than staying. So, I mean, that could be 55-45, it could be 60-40, it could be 70-30, but it's more than 50-50 apparently. So he will go in the summer. There's a very high chance of it. But we cannot do this in January. This is where I draw a line under this. This has to not happen because I don't think there's a United fan out there. I don't even think Ricky would agree with selling Bruno Fernandes in January. That cannot happen. The reality is it can. The release clause is there and it can be triggered from clubs outside of the Premier League in January. So if somebody comes up and spends £56 million, they could do it. But I don't think anyone's going to do that in January. I can't see a club that would need to do that. PSG, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, they don't desperately need to spend £56 million on Bruno Fernandes in January. And I don't think the Saudis have the £56 million release clause. I think that there's a different clause for them. So I don't see it happening, and it can't happen. In fact, I would say about Bruno Fernandes, by all means, move him on in the summer. I think we should have done it last summer. But it's such a symbolic thing to do that you've got to give, you can't just sell him in January. You need to strategically plan what you're going to do. We should have done it last summer, but if we're going to do it, it's got to be next summer. You can't do it now. For me, it's the same as Amorim. Like, if we're going to sack Amorim, wait till the end of May. Don't do it now. And if you're going to sell Bruno, wait till the end of May. Don't do it now. I'm absolutely adamant that is not a good idea. And some people won't understand that because they'll go, oh, how can you be Amorim in, but you don't rate him, but then you'd sack him in May? Because it's all about timing, isn't it? It's all about timing. You don't dump your girlfriend 2 days before Christmas Eve. You wait till after Christmas Eve so you can get your presents. It's all about timing. And people might say that's harsh and ruthless. And some of you probably would dump your girlfriend 2 days before Christmas Eve. But you know what? I've just got a brand new PS5 and I can still dump her the day after Boxing Day. That's ruthless. But I'm happy. She's unhappy. But she'd be unhappy anyway and I wouldn't have a PS5. So it's all about timing. I think, and I think that's a good lesson because all you Amorim outers, you're dumping them before Christmas Eve. You're not getting your present, are you? You can still say, let's remove Amorim after Christmas and get your presents. So for me, that's the way Man United should look at it. And it's the same with Bruno. I would take the money for Bruno in the summer when I know I can do a proper rebuild, but I wouldn't take the presents now. I mean, I just wouldn't. No chance. So look, I don't know whether anything will come to pass. But what I would say is that, sometimes you see a story and you know stuff and you go, you know what? I do think there's something in that. I do think there is something in that. I do think Bruno's on a trajectory to leaving this summer. I said that last summer and nothing has changed. I was quite surprised when Bruno did that interview, basically slating the ownership. Not because of putting us into debt, not because they're crap owners, but because they don't appreciate Bruno. The players couldn't give a toss about the Glazers or Ineos. They've got no interest in that. As long as they've got money going in their bank account and they can drive into Carrington in a nice car, they couldn't give a toss about season ticket prices. They couldn't give a toss about debt. They couldn't give a toss that we're a shadow of our former self. They're just paid players. Bruno's not happy with the club because they haven't, begged him to stay and given him a new contract or whatever it is. But he's not happy with the club. I think they know they need to cash in, and I think it'll happen in the summer. But you've got to remember as well, there is a big player in this game, and that's Ruben Amorim, who absolutely, every opportunity he can, speaks glowingly about Bruno. So, there's a bit of a collision point there in the summer. If the club pushed to move him out and Amorim doesn't want him to go. But look at what's just happened to Maresca. And how powerful is Amorim? I mean, out of what happened to Maresca yesterday and how Man United copied the Chelsea model, how much power does Amorim actually have? I mean, one of the reasons Maresca is leaving Chelsea is because the fitness department have more of a say than him. So when you see Ruben Amorim subbing a player off after 60 minutes, some clubs, Chelsea, the manager's got no say in that. the fitness department overrule the manager. This player cannot play longer than this. He's got to come off. So I don't know how much power Amorim would actually have over Manchester United if they decided to sell Bruno Fernandes. But I definitely think we're on the trajectory to him going. I think Bruno's almost at the end of his tether anyway, and I think the club see it as very good. I mean, look, we're run by the Glazers. Imagine imagine the Glazers have got a field full of cows, right? And some of the cows are young and they're going to grow into big bulls that you can get some money for. But then you've got a proud old bull that's on his last legs and soon will be retired. And then somebody comes and pays you really good money. They're going to be all over it. Getting £50 million for a 32-year-old, they're going to think it's Christmas in the summer. So they will do it. They will do it. They will want to do it. And ultimately, I think Bruno will want to go in the summer as well. I just think Amorim and some fans will be against it. But I think we're on the trajectory to him leaving. I think the club are on board. Well, I know the club are on board with it. And I know Bruno's on board with it. It's just about timing. And as I said, the only thing that I think could rescue it is if United suddenly looked like they were going to compete for the Champions League, compete for the Premier League. And I don't think that's going to happen in 5 months. Is that not a depressing thought, says Garfield Patterson? Look, we need Bruno Fernandes now. Nobody can argue with that. We need Bruno Fernandes now. We need him fit. He will massively enhance our chances of getting into Europe this year. Even in the midfield, he will help us. But we should, in my opinion, have started this project in the summer. And I'd love to know which or how many incompetent fools on our board went against it. But we have to do that this summer. Slow Sports News says, I heard from a friend who's familiar with Lee Gallagher. That Lee's in Madrid and says United are in for a permanent move for Conor, but still unclear. Slow Sports News there. I mean, not the best name when it comes to having a source, but we'll have to wait and see. Lee, okay. It reminds me a little bit of Kev and his window cleaner at Old Trafford, Slow Sports News. But look, we'll have to wait and see. What I can tell you about Conor Gallagher is that Atletico Madrid are absolutely adamant they will not let him go on loan in January. So that's come out again from Spain overnight that Conor Gallagher can go, but they want money in January. There won't be a loan deal. So what will happen is United will not do a permanent deal and they will wait until the end of the window to see if Atletico Madrid will do a loan deal at the end of the window, which means we'll go all the way through January without bringing a midfielder in and maybe not getting a midfielder at the end of January. So that's what's going on with Conor Gallagher. So thanks very much to Slow Sports News, because I would have forgot to bring that in, that they are still saying only a loan deal. So United, my opinion is this. I don't buy Conor Gallagher. You don't buy Conor Gallagher. We've got different opinions. I accept that. But the reality is United tried to get him in the summer and they're trying to get him again now. So it's clear that the board have decided Conor Gallagher is the guy they want. Pay the money. Why are you obsessed with a loan deal? Just pay the money. It's 25 million quid. Pay the money. Just do it. Or he's not good enough, isn't it? If you're not willing to buy him, then don't buy somebody else. But this obsession with a loan. When does it ever work out for Man United with a loan deal anyway? Sabitzer didn't work, Agallo didn't work, Weghorst didn't work. They're either good enough or they're not. And try before you buy is quite rare for a big club anyway. When do Man City loan players? When do Arsenal loan players? When do Chelsea loan players? It's quite rare to do that. So you either do it or you don't. And that's my stance on it. I want to talk about Mainoo and Mateta next, but Rogue I2 says Ineos has to go. Look, on that point, I just want to say this. You know what? I saw Fabrizio Romano overnight basically say, and I'll give you the quote on this, and I thought I've got to bring this into the morning show. Can't believe it's so cold. My cup of tea, which was hot 5 minutes ago, is cold. That's not acceptable. So this is what Romano said overnight. He basically said that Manchester United remain on their stance, supporting and backing Ruben Amorim. United are not planning for anything different at this stage. So Romano will be well briefed, saying that the club back and support Amorim and they're not looking to change anything at this stage. Now, Premier League predictions with me and Robbie is on That's Football at midday today. Spoiler alert, Robbie predicted a Leeds win against Man United, right? But he said to me, if you lose that game, surely he's got to go. I said, mate, it's amazing that you can look in from the outside as an Arsenal fan, 4 points clear at the top, remembering the days of rivalry between United and Arsenal, Wenger and Sir Alex, Keane and Vieira. It's amazing that you, somebody I respect because you were around the same age and you remember the days of United versus Arsenal and the United success. It's amazing that you can sit there and go, if we lose to Leeds at the weekend, surely Amorim goes. But I can tell you as a Man United fan, there's no chance of that. And he was like, that's ridiculous. And I went, but that's Man United. Like, that's what we are now. Those standards are in the mud. And even rival fans look at it and go, well, surely if that happens on Sunday, he's going to go. But we know he won't. So Romano's update that United's stance is that they're still going to back this manager, even if he loses at the weekend and, you know, all the bad points we've dropped over December. But I'm calm about it because, as somebody said there, Ineos need to go, the Glazers need to go. Why would I get angry or surprised or bothered about Ineos backing Amorim despite bad results? Why would I get, frustrated about the Glazers being comfortable keeping Amorim despite bad football and bad results? To me, it's totally logical. They're shit owners. What do you expect? If they are shit owners, you're going to get shit decisions. If they're clueless owners, you're going to get bad judgment. So to me, I'm sort of quite relaxed because I'm sort of like, what's the point in getting stressed about it? The problem at Man United are the owners. They're not going to have, you're not going to get Romano saying Amorim's on thin ice, meetings are taking place all the time about replacements. That's what a proper football club would do. We've got bad owners, so they will double down on their bad decisions. If this was Liverpool, if this was Arsenal, if this was Chelsea, you'd be getting leaks out from Ornstein and Romano that United are really unhappy a year into this project. The results aren't what they expected, and the manager is under pressure. That would be coming out from a proper football club. But at Man United, no, they're sure they've got the right guy. They're confident they've got the right guy. What makes you so sure and confident that you've got the right guy? Because any United fan I speak to, even the ones that back Amorim, won't say he's the right guy. They'll just say he needs time. Let's give it to the end of the season. The fact that United are putting it out there that they're confident in their decision and they're sticking by the manager doesn't surprise me because bad decision makers make bad decisions. So I don't really give a shit what Romano or Ornstein or any other good journalist says about what Ineos think about Amorim, because I don't give a shit what Ineos think about anything because I think they're crap. So people need to stop getting stressed about the updates that are coming out that the owners are going to back the manager. Bad owners, bad decisions. I don't know why people, you're almost trusting the owners to make the right choice. You're almost like bothered about what they think. Like, oh my God, don't worry about it. They're crap owners. And that's all that matters. Don says, we are in 6th place. Use your eyes, brother. Yeah, but mate, this is what I said last night, and this is what anybody with a brain realises. Liverpool are in 4th, and they're crap. Like, Liverpool fans are absolutely pulling their hair out with their team, and they're 4th. And they're rubbish. I watched them last night. They are absolutely shit, and have been shit all season. Chelsea have just removed their manager, and they're 5th. And we are crap, and we're 6th. The league is weird beyond the top 3. There are 3 decent teams. The rest of the league is chaotic. And any other season, we'd probably be about 9th. But because it's just so weird, you're right. We are very close to Champions League qualification, despite being shit. Liverpool are in the Champions League spot, despite being shit. Like, Newcastle are in the bottom half of the table. You know, it's a weird season. And you're absolutely right, Don. That is a reason why he will survive, because the league is just so chaotic. We could lose to Leeds and beat Burnley and still be in 5th place. I mean, figure it out, right? We've lost to Everton. I'm trying to figure it out. So, Everton, no points. Crystal Palace, 3 points. I need to write this down. I need to talk about Mainoo and Arteta. So, what was it? Everton, 0. Why is this pen not working? 0, 3 against Palace. Then we drew against Bournemouth. Drew against West Ham. We beat somebody at home, didn't we? We lost to Villa. We beat Newcastle. And we drew against Wolves. That's our last 7 games, isn't it? Lost to Everton, beat Palace, drew to Bournemouth, drew to West Ham, lost to Villa, beat Newcastle, drew against Wolves. So we've got 9 points. Is that right? We've got 9 points from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. From 21? Is that right? Oh, we beat Wolves as well. So we've got 12 from 24. So we've got 12 points from our last 24. And we've got... that was at home. That was at home. Everton was 2 points. I can't figure out how many points we've got from home. None from Everton, 1 from West Ham, 1 from Bournemouth, 3 from Newcastle. Is it 6 from 15 at home? Something like that? 6 from 15 at home, I think. I think that would be right, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah. 6 from 15 at home, yeah. So, we've got 12 points from our last 24. Got 6 points from our last 15 at home. We could lose to Leeds at the weekend and beat Burnley, which would give us 15 from 30. And we'd still be in touching with the Champions League. How can that happen? How can you drop half your points and still be close to the Champions League? It's crazy. 12 points from 24 is not a 50% win ratio. It's not a 50% win ratio at all, because we've only won 3 from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've only won 3 from 8. So whatever 3 from 8 is your percentage, not 50% of points. So yeah, it's a weird season. Anyway, I digress on the Romano and the Ineos thing, but I wanted to get that in. Let me just catch up on some of your points, and then I'm going to talk about this Mainoo and Mateta stuff. Michael Martinez says, not cutting my hair until Mark starts 5 shows on time in a row. I don't know, is the honest answer. Sorry, I don't know. Michael says, I'm not cutting my hair until Mark... Okay, I don't know whether anyone else gets this, but over the last few weeks, I've seen a few people going, I'm not cutting my hair until Man United win 5, this, that, and the other. Look, there's one guy who did the hair thing. It's still going. And I'm sort of looking at it and going, yeah, just leave it to him. Welcome to the Members Club, GMAC. Thank you very much for getting your badge in the new year. Welcome to 2026. Castle says, why would United let Bruno and Mainoo both leave? We'll talk about Mainoo in a minute. Bruno will be this summer, mate. Why would you not let 6 players go in the summer? You know. Paul says, morning, Mark. We ain't selling Bruno mid-season, even if we get offered 100 million. I bet we bloody would. I bet we would. What keeps you supporting this great club? But, mate, you don't abandon who you support just because they're run by idiots. You know, you choose your club. That's it. Rajaf says, excellent point made yesterday by you, Mark. Even if there are fans out there who think the players and the manager are 99% of the problem, if you change the 1%, i.e. the owners, they change the 99. It's baffling that fans don't get this. Rajaf, it is an eternal confusing point for me that there are literally fans out there that don't care about Ineos. They don't care about the Glazers. All they want to do is sack Amorim. And essentially, you change the owners, you get to change all of that. Stephen, welcome to the Members Club. Couple of members joining today. Thank you very much for that. Keel Robinson says, the commercial success of Ronaldo and Messi has created messiah delusions in players and teams. Bruno can get lost. And Hitton says, Happy New Year to you and the family in United Stand. Happy New Year to you, mate. We must realise Amorim was never fully backed. Ineos and co are scapegoating yet another manager, but sacking him mid-season is a blunder for us. Look, what I will say is, some of you would sack Amorim today and appoint Xabi tomorrow, right? Xabi comes in tomorrow. What's Xabi going to want to do? He's going to want to play good, quick possession football like he did at Barcelona. He's got no wingers. He's got no flair. He's got no ballers who can control the ball. And the team just isn't a Xabi team. He needs midfielders that are tenacious and good on the ball. He doesn't have that. He needs flair players that can create down the flanks. He doesn't have that. He would need... I don't think there's a manager in world football that can take this job. Sorry, I'm getting sent something here. I don't think there's a manager that can take the job and succeed. AI says Conte could do it, but I don't think there's a manager that can take this job and succeed under this ownership. Now, we're taking 10 steps ahead because they're not going to sack Amorim and they're not going to leave the Glazers, are they? But even if you do sack Amorim, I don't see a pathway. What United are trying to do, if nobody's realised it, and you probably do need to realise this in 2026 because it will make your life a little bit easier. The strategy at Man United is to scam Champions League football and utilise that money to keep getting Champions League football until we built a new stadium. And then when we've built a new stadium and we've paid it off, we'll then hopefully be able to start winning things again. But it's a flawed logic. Just because you've got a new stadium doesn't make you win things. Look at Spurs, look at Arsenal, it doesn't. So at the end of the day, I think that there has to be an acceptance that all you're going to get out of this ownership is the occasional Champions League qualification where you will never win it, no Premier League title, and the occasional domestic trophy. Because increasingly, and you'll see it next weekend, the big clubs are going to take their eye off the ball with the FA Cup. There ain't no way Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Newcastle are picking strong teams in the FA Cup. So that will open the door to Crystal Palace, Man United to try and win that, as Palace did last year. We're not going to win the Premier League and we're not going to win the Champions League with this ownership. All they're bothered about is the investment that Ineos have made into the Glazers to build a stadium that's going to make them double their money. That's the big play. This is like putting your money in a long-term interest high account where you can double your money in 5 years' time. That's the only reason Ineos and Glazers are working together, is to build that stadium, regenerate the area with the government and double their money. Double your money, try to get rich. That's what they're trying to do. The football is a byproduct. There is an element of importance with the football because they can't be in 15th place. They can't get relegated. They do need European football. But they're not going to invest to win the Premier League. That's not going to happen. If I could get an interview with Barada or Wilcox or Sir Jim on a lying detection test and I said to them, Will you do what it takes to win the Premier League? Are you and have you got the funds to support this club to win the Premier League? The answer will be a big flat no. Our limitation is to try and get into Europe every year. The Premier League is not what we're looking to do. So you need to understand what the aims of the football club are. It's European football and build a stadium for the next 5 years. That's all it is. There is no intention of fighting to win a Premier League or spending the money to win a Premier League. So even if you sack Amorim and you bring Xavi in or Tuchel in or Nagelsmann in or whoever your hipster manager is now, they will walk in and find the same problems. I need this, 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 and this, and they'll go, we'll give you this, but you've got to work with that. And then in a year's time, people will go, this isn't what I expected, get him out, and we'll be back here again. There is no manager in world football that's good enough to take this job that doesn't need at least $500 million, within 18 months of walking in. And we won't have that. So even if Xavi comes in, he'll still have to work with Delo. He'll still have to work with Luke Shaw. He'll still have to work with Agate. He's still going to have to work with players that we need to move on. It ain't going to change. And that's why we'll keep failing, because those types of players don't play for Arsenal. Those types of players don't get in a Man City side. New manager, same problem, exactly. But it surprises me that we think that a new manager will change things, because it is true. Amorim may well not be the guy for this job. He may be massively out of his depth, and he may have been massively out of his depth at Man City, even with money. I saw a great comment a couple of weeks ago where somebody said Manchester City were looking at Amorim. Even with the open checkbook, he would fail. He's just not a Premier League manager. And I thought, there's a lot of if, buts and maybes in that. However, maybe he's not the guy, maybe he is the guy. But he certainly hasn't had the backing he needs at this football club. Sarvesh says, tie up with clothes brand to print free United Glazer out shirts. Brand takes the profit, but you promote the messages, so you are not accused of profiteering, says Sarvesh. Ryan Jazzy says, a prosperous new year to you all at the United Stand. Love from South Africa. And to you, Ryan, as well. If Cunha had most assists, she'd be glazing. It's Bruno, so you don't care, says Pizza. It's got absolutely nothing to do with anything what you're talking about. And I will, in 2026, expose people who try to be stupid. We're talking about Manchester United Football Club and why it's in terminal decline. And we're talking about the owners. You're trying to start a Bruno Player FC wankfest. And we're not interested in it, mate. I'm not interested in Player FC. I'm not interested in your little, sad arguments about Player FC. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about something far bigger. And if you'd actually listened to the show, we're talking about Bruno Fernandes leaving in the summer, which I'm pretty sure he will. That's the end of the conversation. But what I did say is we can't let him go in January. He's one of the players that could help us get European football. So I don't even know what you're talking about. Why are you talking about him and Cunha? What's going on in your head? Weird. Have you seen Ineos board may force Sir Jim to step back from running Man United to sort Ineos' financial crisis? Club's a joke and it breaks my heart, says Brian. Somebody said yesterday, why do you blame Ineos for saving the Glazers? It's the Glazers who are responsible. I mean, how do you deal with a comment like that? Because Ineos literally saved the Glazers. They needed investment to stay at the club, and Ineos did it. And people say, wow, there was an American investment fund that were going to do it. That would never have worked. It had to be local lad, British billionaire who supports Man United. It was the only way they were going to survive. Sell in January when we turned down 100 million this summer would be a joke, says Fraser. Pizza's back again. Glazers 72% majority plus Ineos minority equals 100%. Do you understand this, Mark? Mate, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry in 2026 I'm having to go down this road again. But you are an idiot. You're wasting everybody's time. If you're going to come in here and try it on, you better come armed with facts. Because the Glazers do not own 72% and Sir Jim Radcliffe owns 28%. The Glazers don't own 72%, mate. This is the United Stand. If you're going to come and talk about Man United, make sure you've done your bloody own work, because we are not 100% owned by the Glazers and Sir Jim. There are shareholders that own about 28% themselves. 22%. The Glazers own about 50%, 51%. Then it's the gym with 28%, and then it's shareholders. Sorry about pizza wasting everyone's time, but these people need to be put in their place. Goldfridge says, Ineos are not sure on Amorim. Their ego just won't allow them to sack another manager after Ten Hag, Ashworth, and sacking half the workforce. Absolutely spot on. And Grunt says, what did the club mean by backing him? It isn't shown through their transfer activity to allow him to achieve his vision. Just words from Ineos, says Grunt. Bruno Rocha says, let's be honest, look at these players' attitudes. No manager will succeed until they clean the squad. Amorim is a great young manager. He took Sporting from the slumps. He needs players and time. And Dazzo says, only way I sell Bruno now is if Elliot Anderson comes in January. I don't think we need to worry about that happening in January, if I'm being honest. 10,000 watching already. You're an absolute bunch of legends this morning. Thank you so much. Big January ahead. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and get involved. I want to talk about Mainoo and Mateta next. Thank you, everybody who's tuning in. There was something I was going to say there. Yeah, you know, when you talk about players and attitude, I think we spent a lot of time over the last 24 hours talking about the owners and Amorim. And one set of group of people who've been pretty much left alone are the players. You know what? I look at the game against Wolves, and I was getting my hair cut, and the guy who was cutting my hair was basically taking the piss, laughing about Wolves. And we were talking about attitude and passion. And he's not a Man United fan, but he was saying, you know what? There's just no passion in that team. There's no. You associate Man United with drive, determination, sweating blood. There's not many people doing that in a United shirt. And you know, when you look at the senior players in that team on Monday night, Casemiro, who I've listened to people all season tell me is back, he's lean, he's doing really well. It's funny how since the November international break, Casemiro's been shit. Have you noticed how Casemiro was decent from like August till the November international break? But now there's no international break coming up, and he's established in the Brazil team. He's gone crap. I don't see the Casemiro glazing anymore for the last few weeks. He's been absolutely bang average for weeks and was terrible against Wolves. Dalot's on the senior leadership team. He's crap. And then you've got Luke Shaw, who, in fairness, is on some miracle staying fit plan. But as a leader of that team, couldn't inspire a packet of crisps. So, you know, it's a very fair assessment that there's very little leadership in that team. I think Martinez tries to bring it, but he's coming back from 2 years out being injured, you know, and he's a centre-back. But there's very little in that team. And you know, Bruno's a very frustrating captain, but at least when Bruno's on the pitch, you do get that moments. I wouldn't even say he's an inspiring leader, but you do get those moments. But yeah, it's there's a distinct lack of there's too many passengers in that team, you know? There's too many passengers. We're carrying too much deadwood, as per usual. We've been carrying too much deadwood at that club for 10 years. I remember when Van Gaal was in charge and we went into a summer transfer window and it was like, we've got to get rid of the deadwood. That's when it started. And it's still there now. Rog, Fed, thank you very much for your super chat. Only way, I've done that one from Dazzo. Let me talk to you about Mainoo. So, look, a little bit overnight about Mainoo. To be fair, it's coming in from the crap journalist from The Sun saying that Mainoo still sees a future at Manchester United. What we know about the Mainoo situation is that he is injured and there is an opportunity to play for Manchester United. Now, conspiracy theorists have been talking for the last week or so. Is he really injured? Is he just waiting to move in January? But United won't let him go anyway because they won't let anybody go until people start coming back, like Bruno and the AFCON lads. So I think the Mainoo injury, the longer this goes on, especially if he's back today, we've got the press conference with Amorim at 1:30. If Mainoo's back for Leeds, there's hope. And I think Mainoo wants to play for Manchester United. So I don't know what's going to happen with Mainoo. I don't know what's going to happen in this transfer window. And that in itself is another example of how bad the ownership is, that this is a transfer window. This is something you should have been working towards for 3 months. And now it's here. It's as chaotic as it was 3 months ago. There is no plan. You know, what's happening with Xerxes? What's happening with Mainoo? Are we bringing any players in? And United just sort of dithering around going, let's wait till everyone comes back from the AFCON and let's wait till Bruno comes back. If Mainoo can be fit, he's got an opportunity. I mean, the problem with Mainoo is, if he's fit, and we don't know whether he is fit, can he play 90 minutes against Leeds? Probably not. Probably not, because he's been out for 2 weeks. When did Mainoo put the T-shirt on? Can anyone remember? When did Mainoo put the T-shirt on? It was before the Villa game. It was Bournemouth. So we played Bournemouth on Monday night. I just got back from Centre Parks. So that was the middle of December. So he's been injured for easily 2 weeks with a calf strain, if it's a genuine injury, which it looks like it is. So, you know, that's a long enough injury that you're not going to just be able to come back and play 90 minutes. So it's going to be about 3 weeks by the time, even if he's back for Leeds, it's nearly 3 weeks, isn't it? So even if he can play against Leeds, he's not going to play 90 minutes. Then it's very unlikely he's going to be allowed to play against Burnley because it's only 3 days later. Then it's Brighton in the Cup where he might be able to play 90 minutes. And then Bruno will be back for the Manchester derby. So he's probably got a game and a half if he's back for the Leeds game before he's going to be out of the team again. So I think with Mainoo, it's like, I'm sure he desperately wants to play and I'm sure he desperately wants to stay. But I'll tell you, the worst thing, I'll give Mainoo a bit of advice, right? The worst thing you can do is think in February you're in this team. Because there's a lot of games at the moment and there's a lot of people missing at the moment. But once we hit February, we'll be back to playing 1 game a week. We might be out the FA Cup, so definitely 1 game a week. Bruno will be fit. Casemiro will be fit. Agate will be fit. We're playing 1 game a week. We'll need to win every week. And you'll be lucky if you're getting 20 minutes off the bench. But the window will be closed and you'll be wasting a whole season. So if I was Mainoo, I'd be very wary that they're only using me because there's nobody else. And as soon as everybody's back, I'll be back where I was a month ago, sat on the bench, not playing week in, week out. That's the reality for Mainoo, because there's no way that Ruben Amorim rates Mainoo enough to drop him, enough to drop Casemiro. Well, he can't play Bruno and Casemiro. He can't play Bruno and Mainoo. He won't do it. He won't play Bruno and Mainoo because it's not got enough defensive cover. And he's not going to drop Bruno for Mainoo. So the cold, harsh reality is Mainoo needs to be pushing for the move this month, because if he doesn't get it, he's going to be sat on the bench till the summer, and then the next time he starts a game will be in August. So whether Mainoo's going to go or stay, I think he's got to be pushing to go if he wants to play football. I don't see anything massively changing in that arena. But hopefully he's back, because I'd love to see him playing against Leeds in a game where we're so short, and I think he could make a massive difference. I'd love to see Mainoo playing next to Casemiro on Sunday rather than seeing Casemiro and Agate, which were just so lackluster against Wolves. At least Mainoo gives us a bit of a creativity. But Platonic says Mainoo's staying and playing. I mean, I'll have a pint of what you're having, even though it's 10 o'clock in the morning, mate, because you've clearly not been watching this club for the last year. Amorim doesn't rate Mainoo, so I don't think he'll use him. But it's encouraging and it's positive news that he wants to stay. I don't want Mainoo leaving this football club. I mean, worst case scenario, he doesn't get picked, he doesn't play, and he leaves in the summer. But if he doesn't play and Amorim leaves in the summer, he could be back wearing a Man United shirt at the start of next season. So I think we've got to protect we've got to protect the asset, and also protecting the. I mean, look, some people in the chat are being a bit, in my opinion, over the top. I just want to protect the asset. If Mainoo's going to play for Man United next season, whether it's under Amorim or a new manager, what's the best thing that can happen to him in January? Answer me that question. So if you want Mainoo in a Man United shirt next season, it's not going to be this season anyway, is it? He's not going to displace Bruno. So if you want to see Mainoo starting for Man United next season, what's the best thing that can happen in January? Him going on loan and doing really well. That's the best case scenario. So I want to see Mainoo playing for Man United next season. I want to see him in our midfield next season. That's a positive. He's still at Man United. He's wearing a Man United shirt. He's playing for Man United. The only pathway to that is loaning him out, because keeping him and not playing him will mean a whole year of his career gone at 20 years of age. That is such an important year. If he'd done his cruciate ligament and he was out for a year, I'd be worried about him losing a year of development. What's different than sitting on the bench and you're still losing a year of your development? So this is Jason Wilcox's job. This is literally Jason Wilcox's job. His job is not to babysit Ruben Amorim. He might need to sack him at some point. His job is to have the short-term and long-term best interests of the club at heart. If he can't see that Amorim doesn't want to pick Mainoo, then he's an idiot. So he needs to protect and develop Mainoo. And the way to do that is to get him on loan. Get him on loan. But he's probably got Sir Jim saying, we can't afford a replacement, so just keep him, which doesn't help anybody apart from the bank balance. Could a movement against the Glazers start again with Intense as tech? Mate, I've got absolutely no idea how you get the Glazers out. I don't know. Beyond everybody singing from the same hymn sheet and does, cancels games, doesn't go to games, merchandise, complete and utter block. And how do you do that? Mark, you should start a GoFundMe campaign to buy the club, says Rog Fed. I'm sure that'd go down well. How do you feel about United signing Jesus, says George? I've never heard of us being linked to anyone like that. Look, the Mateta story is out there again. I think in relation to Arteta, Manchester United are... Sorry, Mateta, not Arteta. I feel like the Mateta story is a little bit about a new contract at Crystal Palace. That's just my take on it, because it's very rare that Sky, for years, have breaking transfer stories. They just haven't for years. They're not very good at this. I mean, occasionally they are going to get something, but they're not very good at this. So for Sky to say that Man United want Mateta, his contract runs out in 2027, so he's still got a year left on his contract. So if he's not going to sign a new contract, Crystal Palace may want to cash in. But if you look at Gehi, they've let him run his contract down because he's so important to them. So there's no guarantee that Palace will do a cheap deal with a year left on their contract. Quite the contrary. So it just feels to me like Mateta, who is, 28? He's going to be 29 in the summer, which means by the time his contract's run up, he'll be 30. I don't think United are in for Mateta. I think Mateta and his agent are just trying to sort out an exit or a new contract. If we sign midfielders in the summer and Bruno stays, then Mainoo won't be a regular starter, says Sal. Kobbie and 70 million for Bellingham, says Mazraoui. Yeah, I'm sure that they'd be all over that. I really am. A couple of other Brits to bring you as well. Where were they? I was just having a quick look. Any incomings in January are likely to be dictated by outgoings. United have no interest in loaning out unless there's a commitment to buy after the loan. Their squad is small as it is, so there is no benefit in giving another team fresh blood for no fee. This is coming in from The Athletic, by the way. I completely disagree with this, by the way. Again, it's just another example of how badly we are run. United see no point in loaning out unless there's a commitment to buy. There's no benefit in giving another team fresh blood for no fee. I mean, this is just so idiotic. We've literally just spoken about it. So we're not going to loan a player out unless there's an obligation to buy. What about Mainoo, who's 20, who isn't getting any game time? If you loan him out and he gets game time, then he develops and doesn't sit on his arse for 5 months. We don't need to loan Mainoo with an obligation to buy. We need to loan him to give him game time that he's not getting at United. But everything's about money, you see. They're all about money. They're like, why should we loan Mainoo out if we're not going to get a fee for him at the end of it? Because he's an asset that if you loan him out, he'll be more valuable to you in the summer. I mean, it doesn't surprise me how thick they are. Also says United were not going to pay Semenyo any more than the 3 outfield players they went for in the summer. Had he signed, it would have accelerated the summer plans. Yet those are not set in stone. A new central midfielder defender was on the target list. Now the club have heaven. They're not so sure. United will also see which formations are used and whether there's European football next season, which is the make or break aim for the campaign. Also goes on to say that Harry Maguire can sign a pre-contract agreement with another club now. United have not held substantive talks with him about next year because his situation is still in play and he's been injured. He's 32 and one of the best paid players at the club, but he's also still a huge figure in the dressing room. These are all considerations to be weighed up. I mean, it's amazing how contradictory the football club is, isn't it? You've got Harry Maguire on nearly 200 grand a week, who at 32 is getting injured 3 or 4 times a season now, but we're going, well, he's a big influence in the dressing room. Is that not the manager's job and the assistant coach's job and the captain's job? I mean, we're literally considering keeping an injury-prone player who's going to be 33 on 190 grand a week, and we're considering keeping someone like that. And you've got a 20-year-old in Mainoo who's not getting any game time, and we won't let him get any game time. And you sort of like go, what a bunch of hypocrites. I don't get. And also, we value leaders. Look, they think Luke Shaw's a leader. They think Dalot's a leader. They think Casemiro's a leader. Where was that leadership on Monday night? They're not. What we think is leadership isn't leadership. And the sooner we reset this football club, the better. But I'm not so sure that we're ever going to hit that reset, to be honest. So would you let Maguire go? Look, I like Maguire. I mean, I loved the goal against Liverpool. I loved the goal against Lyon, but they're not enough to keep him. I mean, I've got to say, Maguire being injured, he got injured against Forest. He's basically been injured for 2 months. At no point have I thought we miss Maguire. Honestly, I like him to have him about, but I don't see him as a starter. I don't miss him. I do like Maguire. I think he's come through a lot, but I don't miss him, and I don't really see that I need him next season. So no, I would let him go. I would let Casemiro go. I'd happily let Luke Shaw go. I'd happily let Dalot go. I'd probably let Mason Mount go as well now. I'm probably in the minority because he has played well, but I'm so tired of a player that is just not reliable. It's like going out with your mates and one of your mates is the life and soul of the party, but you never know whether he's turning up or not. And it's sort of like you get a little bit fed up of inviting them because, you know, you can't rely on them. So I do miss De Ligt. I do miss Bruno. I do miss Ahmad. I do miss Mazraoui. I do miss Mbermo. I miss those 5 players. But I think it's a good way of looking at a player. If a player was out injured for a month, do you miss them? So I would miss Le Mans. I would miss Martinez. I would miss Cunha. I would miss Bruno, and we are missing Bruno. I wouldn't miss Dalot. I wouldn't miss Shaw. And Mason Mount's sort of getting into that category now. He's just I think he's had 5 injuries this season already again. They've just not been very long. Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea aren't planning to sack their manager, so why should we sack Amorim in his first transfer and they didn't fully back him? Rios, I don't know whether you were pissed yesterday or hungover or just in a coma, but Chelsea have removed their manager yesterday, mate. If we sign midfielders in the summer and Bruno's, I've done that one from Sal. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. Great show this morning. Great to see so many people tuning in. It's Friday today. We've all got to figure out what day it is. That's the breaking news. It's Friday. It is Friday today. I thought it was Monday. It's Friday today, which means another weekend of football and a press conference with Ruben Amorim today at 1:30. So the big thing I'm looking for from that is what is anybody back fit to play against Leeds? The only ones I think could be back are De Ligt, Maguire and Mainoo. Bruno won't be back and no one's back from the AFCON. Mainoo's the one that's important.
I do think De Ligt's the best of the three, but we can play Heaven, we can play Yoro, we can play Martinez, and we can play Shaw. So Mainoo is the one I want back. So fingers crossed we get that news at lunchtime. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and keep warm. I'll speak to you a bit. Thanks for watching. Premier League predictions on That's Football out at midday as well.